All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Jeff International. Oh, man, well, our mission, for those of you that don't know, is to bring guests from all over the world that are willing to share compelling stories about their journey, whether it's in business, personal relationships, health, or in community development. Oh, man, and they drop some nuggets for us to be able to take right now and apply in our lives, either to correct what's going on in our lives, either to stabilize things that are falling apart or even help us get to the next level, right? So they come in, they share their experience, strength, and hope. And man, I tell you what, make sure you go back and catch a lot of the replays. This year we've had some phenomenal guests. I don't want to just give you a name. Just go back and pick one. And they're a little long, but they're worth it, right? You can break it up and have some lunch, come back and listen to it. So I encourage you, for those of you that are looking to level up, for those of you that know that you're meant for more and that you want to be part of a community that says, hey, let's come together. Let's don't fight. Let's find peace. Let's don't argue. Let's discuss. Let's don't react. Let's respond. That's how things used to be, right? Anyway, so we have messages around that. And then there are times when I come in and share a perspective from my point of view, right? And this will be what's going on today, because Stinkin Thinkin, the silent killer of comebacks. Oh, man, those of you that know me know I'm a firm believer, baby, in the power that we have in the conversation with ourselves about ourselves. And our guests do such a great job sharing how it was for them when they were going through the worst parts in their lives. But they also talk about how the growth, the biggest growth, was found in the deepest struggle, man, right? And the lessons learned, and that they use and apply those things. So anybody, getting back to what I was saying about the conversation you're having with yourself.
I didn't get that.
Could
you try again?
Hey, Sears excited here today. Hey, listen, this is real live and not a recording. So anyway, what was I talking about? Still in the introduction. Okay. Yeah, so we bring these folks in. I share from my perspective. And our goal is to really help you understand the impact that something that goes on in our lives throughout our day, that hypnotic flow of the conversation you're having with yourself about yourself, or the conversation you're listening to, right? I want to distinguish listening to and talking to. That voice, you know, the voice that says, man. Yeah, it always starts with, man, or it starts with you can, or are you crazy? Or it starts with something that takes away your energy, that drains you, right? We all know about the energy drainers. We've got friends and family relatives that drain our energy. And then we do it to ourselves, right? So it's listening, the conversation you're listening to about yourself, from yourself, and the conversation you're having with yourself about yourself, or the words that you're saying subconsciously. I don't even know anymore. And I listen to people and I work with people and I ask them to go home and write down how many times they, one, go before they realize, oh crap, I'm supposed to be jotting down every time I say I can't, or every time I say it's impossible, or every time I go back to the old ways of thinking, or reminding myself about all the failures and the things that we, all that stuff, right? So it just takes a while just to become aware. So anyway, I got some stuff in here. I got 3 things that keep us stuck and 3 things that help us get unstuck. And you have some other things that you probably want to add to it and place in there, and that's okay. Please do. I encourage you to do that. When you listen to this, make sure you kind of take your mind and place it in the conversation so that you can kind of grab your pen and take some notes, or your phone, or whatever it is that you take notes with, right? Because you learn through note taking. You learn through reviewing your notes. You learn through applying what it is that you're working on, right? So anyway, for those of you who don't know, I don't know if I'm going to introduce myself or not, but I'm going to do it again. If I did, my name is Jeff Tyson, and I'm known as the Comeback King. And I got that name from folks that have seen me go through things and help them overcome things that they never thought they could do through the conversation they're having with themselves, about themselves, and other things. That's where it all starts, right there. Right, it all starts right in there, man. I mean, that's where it is. And so I'm the founder of Comeback King Enterprises, a new entity that we put in place and host of Conversations with Jeff International. And I am excited to be here today to deliver these thoughts with you. And I ask you humbly to make sure that you listen and take notes and store this away so that you can get back to it later and share it with your friends. Subscribe, set the notification bell up so you can stay informed on when we're coming up next, because we got some things coming up in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and wrap this quarter up before we even get to the other. So anyway, man, all right, let's get busy. So I'm gonna ask you when you come in and when you listen to this, drop a note. Let me know where you're from. Right? If you're there now, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever that is, let us know about that, right? Because we can't always see everybody. So anyway, all right, we're going to talk about what I believe is the most powerful thing. And that's the stinking thinking, right? And I kind of listed it like this: stinking thinking, the negative inner narratives that quietly keep us stuck. The inner narratives that quietly keep us stuck. So, you should have a description of what I'm talking about. If you don't get that, let me know and I'll be sure to give it to you. So number one of the first three to keep us stuck is shame from the past. Well, you can kind of be thinking about where that might fit for you, right? And even yet still today, after, oh gosh, what has it been? Almost 15 years, maybe 10 years, I don't know. 2008, when my first business, talked a lot about that, and I was serving the housing market, this custom home market, small hotels, right? And we built this cool business, man. We were growing and exploding, and all of a sudden the housing market hit and crashed, and the business went away overnight. And it was a humbling experience for me at that time, right? My first baby, I left corporate America after a long time. My first baby, I may have to close it. I don't know what to do with it. All these things. And man, I really boy. But I was reminded, hey, you're not alone. You got everybody else around you in the same boat. But that stuff still comes up. So that's kind of shame and divorce, whatever it might have some shame around, right? We replay all those old mistakes, the narratives, because I failed once, I'm going to fail again. Oh, man. How untrue is that? But this is just the stuff that spins, right? Oh, I'll fail again. And that's not your memory, man. That becomes your identity, right? That becomes your identity, the quiet identity. You believe that you failed once, you'll fail again. Oh, man. So that's number one, shame from the past. And there's a whole bunch of other things we can get to, but I'll be here all day if I don't just highlight what they're talking about. Number two, is fear of not being good enough. How many times have we walked away from some things, didn't raise our hand for a promotion, didn't go out and put ourselves on a limb to speak to that person that we're really interested in, or do something different physically, exercise, change our way of doing things, right? Because we were what? Fear of not being good enough. Oh, right? I mean, man, that I remember the days when I was in athletics and I was coming up and there were guys that were better than me and they let me know. And for a long time I was thinking, man, I forgot that they were a lot older than I was, right? But I was thinking, man, maybe I'm not good enough. But when I was that age that they were, when they were telling me that, man, I was better than them, right? Anyway, fear of not being good enough. We wear a mask to hide those feelings. How many of us said if they really knew who I was, they wouldn't like me. They wouldn't allow me to be around them. Fill in the blanks for you, whoever that is there, right? They wouldn't know. And what that does, that leads us into isolation and it keeps us trapped, right? Once you start getting in that space where I'm not good enough, you start retreating back, pulling yourself back from opportunities, and all of a sudden you have alligator arms where you can only reach out so far. Come on, man, you know what I'm talking about. So fear of not being good enough. And we're already talking about what I believe to be the most dynamic one, right? And it's the internal narrative that you listen to, that then you allow the people around you to give you the external narrative, right? That says, "Oh, are you crazy about starting your own business? You've been married before? Why do you want to get married again? You've been going on a diet ever since I've known you, and every time you say that, you get larger." I mean, people are cold-blooded, right? Anyway, so you know what I mean. So that spins. That's why I said earlier about what are you really listening to from yourself? Because it's doing this, spinning. What are you really listening to? And what are you saying? So you got all this noise going this way. But we want to be the disruptor, baby. We want to give you some things to say, hey, all right, this is how it is over here. It's just all funky and stinking thinking. But over here, there's some options over here, baby. Here's some options how we can get unstuck, man. We don't have to stay in this space. Because here, I'm going to tell you something. Listen, this whole thing about the conversation we're having with ourselves about ourselves is a hypnotic message, man. How many times are we rolling through life doing and wondering how we're going to get any better? We always find ourselves in the same spot. And no matter how far we go, we always end up back at the starting line. Why do you think that is? I mean, people got all kinds of reasons, but I believe, listen, for my own life, is what spins around in this large cranium. It's a big brain in here, but spins around in it, right? Anyway, so let's get to 3 things to help you get unstuck, and then we'll let you get out of here, man. So make sure you put it in, again, like you said, put it in the comment section. Fill in the blanks for yourself. I just picked some things that I know are pretty common for everybody, right? Not just me. And there's more. There's a whole lot more. We have whole sessions around that because I believe this is so important to pull this stuff off of us, right? Anyway, resetting the internal narrative, the messaging. Once again, man, interrupting that loop. I wrote these things down, so I want to say it to you. And they're actually in the homework too. Who told you that about the stinking thing that you're listening to? Who was the person that told you that? Was that the same knucklehead that had less than you, right? Or is that the person that no longer is even around anymore? Who told you these stories that you're listening to? And listen, before I go any further, yes, there's some work that will need to be done. Yes, sometimes we need to seek outside help. But listen, over the last 30 years, I've learned a lot about this piece right here. And it helped hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people I don't even know around this messaging, right? Resetting the narrative. And you gotta interrupt the loop, baby. Uber is a taxi cab disruptor. Airbnb is hospitality disruptor. You have to become your own disruptor. I'm gonna say it again, you have to become your own disruptor. Oh man, you gotta put the brakes on that noise, man. Who told you that? Why are you listening to it? Is that who you are today? Right? That becomes the spark. Is that who you are today? Find the spark. Find that disruptor. But I'm going to say this word to you, and you can't change. You cannot change what you do not confront. You cannot ignore what I'm talking to you about and get any better. You've got to be able to face this stuff, man. Nothing changes, then nothing changes, right? So you got to confront it. We'll give you these tools. So anyway, reset the narrative. Woo, okay. Replace once, and I want to say too, you got to become aware of it. When I looked at my notes, it's, oh man, I had that out. You really have to be aware of it, right? I mean, this thing is so slick. This conversation you're having with yourself about yourself, this negative narrative, this hypnotic flow that spins constantly, right? That we built like a champion, that we can use to reset ourselves. But anyway, we've got this thing that it runs so smoothly, so quietly, that we don't even know it anymore. Unless we're paying attention to change, unless we want to work and do what's necessary to change our lives. We're tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we want to make a difference. Then we got to start with what we think about, our thoughts. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. If you haven't read this book, go out and get it, right? And if you're just coming in, make sure you go back to the beginning later and catch up where we are. But listen, talking about Stinkin Thinkin and changing the narrative and everything. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. That book is powerful. It took me to the 3rd time to where I realized, he says in the beginning, many of you will want me to give you the reason or the answer to this whole thing so that you can go out and make all these successful moves and become wealthy and all these other things. Some of you will find it naturally. It'll come to you. It is in here. There is a message in here. And I read it the 3rd time, and it was just like, aha. It says, think, work, and grow rich. I'll put it in the work part. Everything is created with a thought, good and bad. What are you creating in your head, right? Anyway, that's enough for that one. Here's it. Replace the lie with living truths. I wrote down find and or create new narratives. We already talked about that. There's so many different things that you can place in front of you. things that will take time to change things. But listen, I'm not talking about just motivating. I'm giving you some things that you can go through a transformation to make a difference. And even through the transformation, there's going to be some days like I've had where you're like, oh man, I don't even want to get out of bed. Right? You had those days, things have happened in your life, you lose someone you love, or things are just kicking your butt and you just can't seem to turn the needle, making any progress, and you just want to say, man, hold your head. It happens to me too. But I've been in the Stinkin Thinkin gym for a lot of years, man, so it just takes a little longer. I got to work a little harder. I got to lift a little more about possibility thinking. I got to lift a little bit more about focusing on helping other people. I got to lift myself up a little more and remember that I have a responsibility, a duty to show up and do the things I don't want to do to help the people that need to be helped, right? Anyway, so what did I write down? I said, so here you go. Here's a way to change the old story. You need to say what you believe, write what you believe, and become what you believe. And in order to do that, you've got to be able to be comfortable writing down what it is that you want to see yourself as. We're responsible for this. Nobody else can do this for you but yourself, right? And Les Brown says it best. You don't know who he is, man. You go check out Les Brown, but he says it all the time. He says, listen, the hardest and the most important and the most valuable job that we have in today and any time is a job in working on ourselves, to set ourselves up for victory, to set ourselves up to battle against the Stinkin Thinkin that's ready. It's been already. It's just whispering or it's screaming at you. And the whisper is a sneaky piece, baby. It's because that whisper just, people think, well, I don't really have any Stinkin Thinkin. And I'm thinking, wow, okay. And then the very next word that come out of the mouth says, I tried that, but it didn't work years ago. So I don't think it was meant for me. It was the wrong time, whatever it was. Anybody hear any messaging like that? Right. So, work on yourself, baby. Don't stop. Don't stop no matter what. It's possible. It's not guaranteed, but it is possible. Change that narrative. And the last one is rebuild with people who see you. Isolation is a trap. Isolation, what do you mean by that, Jeff? That means if you really kind of like, you got all these things you want to do and people have talked about you so many times that you just don't even say it anymore. You don't even show up in opportunities when opportunities are there for you. You know you're qualified for, you don't show up, or you've been struggling with something that you need to say but you can't, so you just hold back and isolate yourself. There's so many things around that, right? So I'll ask you this question, and I ask it out of love, and I want you to hear me when I say it. Stinkin Thinkin is stinking. Is your Stinkin Thinkin keeping you in your survival mode and blocking you from your blessings? How do you know? Have you had opportunities and you've done very well and you set these goals and all of a sudden you had some success and then you end up right back where you started? They talk about the thermometer and the thermostat, right? You set it at a certain temperature, and then once it gets there, the comfort level of the previous temperature calls you back down to where you were. Oh, man. Ooh. Anyway, so here you are. Here's what I got to tell you this. Ooh. We are not built to be mediocre, to have an average life, to just be existing. We are built to soar, man. We have been given the gift of discernment. We have been given the gift of correction. We have been given the gift of dreaming. No other creature other than us, human beings, have been given these abilities to take control of this thing, right? Tony Robbins, if you ever look him up if you don't know about him. But anyway, this man, if you ever go to any of his trainings, real trainings, they're like 12, 13 hours a day. And I was listening to my coach talk about it because he and Tony are partners, and he was saying, Tony, and he speaks sometimes, and he asked Tony, so, right, you You got a catheter attached to you, brother, because you never, when do you use the restroom? And Tony just looked at him and said, listen, I've learned how to control my mind. And I tell myself, I will not have to use the restroom until I'm finished. And it didn't happen right away, but it's automatic now. Think about that. What would your life be like if you worked your tail off? Because it's going to take some work. You got to figure out why, what you want, right? And there's a whole other discussion around 4 things that you need. Anyway, what would your life be like, man? Think about that for a minute as we wrap this thing up. How will you feel when all of a sudden the messaging, that narrative, is a stinking thinking narrative? It's just a whisper. And the new narrative shouts out, baby, you are worthy of success. Nothing will stop you from reaching your destiny. You shall not be denied. And it comes out and it flows and you believe it and you're pep in your step and you're on your way, baby. That's the reality, man. I've been through those changes. I've experienced those situations. That's why I know that if I can do it, you can do it. And it's something we all have the ability to do. Discernment. What did I say as human beings? Adjustments, resetting, refocusing. All that is calculated thinking. All that, man, we have the ability. You don't need a PhD for this. You don't need millions of dollars for this. You can make millions of dollars from doing this. But anyway, no guarantees on that, by the way. So reset. Last 4 things I'm going to remind you. Reset your minds. Please, please, please begin to reset your mind. Start to replace the lies. Change the narrative. Start out small, pay attention, do some homework, just listen to yourself, jot down, start to track the verbal things that come out of your mouth and the things that you don't say and see if they're in alignment, right? So reset your mind, replace the lies and the narratives around it. Rise into the possibilities of who you are. That's the result of the work. You will rise to the possibilities of who you are. You do this work. Is that worth it to you? I think it is, man. I know it is, right? So rise into the possibilities of who you are, because this is the comeback king and queen's way, right? It's not magic. It takes effort. And you can do it. And you are worthy of success. Nothing shall stop you from reaching your destiny. You shall not be denied. Oh, man, I hope you heard me say that. I'm going to say it one more time as I wrap this thing up. Nothing, absolutely nothing will stop you from reaching your destiny. You shall not be denied. And stinking thinking is something that you can control, and you can begin to practice that with yourself, with your family, if you have a family, your friends and neighbors. If your friends and neighbors start looking at you crazy, then you got the wrong friends and neighbors, and you go find some other ones, right? Because they're the wrong ones. Oh boy, they're probably feeling that external stinking thinking, right? They're probably reminding you of all the reasons why you shouldn't be doing this stuff, right? Those aren't the folks. You need to cut them loose, man. Anyhow. I really appreciate everybody and for doing that. And there's no better time than now to take a look at yourself, right? It's more things happening on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm going to see if I'll find a link and get it out to you. Where I've come from in this social media world, my coaches, Tony and Dean, have the year-end celebration that talks a lot about giving people like you the opportunity to take your story, your life's experiences, all the things that you've been through, all the struggles that you've grown from, all the things that you've done well and that you sucked at, put them in a package and begin to serve other people. If you're interested in doing that, hit me up. I'll send you the link. I'm going to get the link out on my story anyhow, somehow, so you don't miss that one. And hey, thanks for sharing with me today your time. Thanks for listening to the message that I have for you today. Make sure you set the notification bell, set it up. And if you're interested in being an affiliate, let me know. We're looking for affiliates. We have a couple more slots going into the second half of the year. So let's talk about that. And don't let the stinking thinking get in your way. And when it does, make a decision to do something about it, because you can. We've got the gift of change. All right, guys. Hey, listen, as I go, I'm always going to say, don't let nothing stop you from reaching your destiny. You shall not be denied, especially your stinking thinking. All right, guys. Have a good day. Talk to you later.